So Manny Pacquiao versus Chris Algieri does over 400,000 in pay-per-view buys. Some sources were just saying over 300,000, but there was other sources. I think Bob Arum says it was over 400,000. And so that was expected. The Brandon Rios fight did around the same too. It was 400,000 and something, I remember. And it makes sense because when you have a fight in China, it cuts the pay-per-view buys in half. And you've seen it. Here's an example. When Pacquiao fought Timothy Bradley in the rematch in April, it did 800,000 buys. And you could say Timothy Bradley obviously had a bigger fan base than Chris Algieri. But still, since it was in the U.S., it did 800,000. I definitely think if Manny Pacquiao fought Brandon Rios or Chris Algieri in U.S., it would have been around 700, 800,000. And that's what Bob Arum said too. So it does make sense. The pay-per-view buy rate gets cut in half when you fight in China as expected. And Bob Arum isn't disappointed with that. Since the taxes in Macau, China, aren't that big. So even though they're not making the total money isn't as much money they're making, but the money earned is a higher percentage. So they're ending up making more money for the money they're actually making. For the total money, they're making more profit off the total revenue. So yeah, the revenue might be more in the U.S., but the profit is more in Macau, China. So for the revenue ratio kind of thing, revenue per profit or whatever. So what do you call it? Obviously there would be more media in the U.S. We all seen for the Timothy Bradley 2 fight and all U.S. fights that Manny Pacquiao has been in. There is more media. You got ESPN. You got just more what do you call it? More even small media boxing groups. Like you've seen YouTube boxing channels that go and interview the fighters and stuff like that. They live in the U.S., so they can hype up the fight more. And obviously the big guys too who hype up the fight. But since it's in China, a lot of boxing reporters and can't go down there, so they can't promote the fight as well and stuff like that. So I definitely think so. Manny Pacquiao still generates almost 1 million buys, and if you look at Floyd Mayweather's out of his last 4 fights, if you look at what he's been making, what was it for the Guerrero fight? I think it was in 700 and something thousand buys. And then you look at the Maidana fights, under 1 million still, and the 900,000 buys. And who knows if Showtime is over-exaggerating that number, because it has been said that the official number wasn't really out. They were just saying that it was 900,000 and something. So really, what if they're just trying to keep Mayweather's what do you call it, his image up by saying he has this many pay-per-view buys. He's still the pay-per-view king. He's still the money king. They want to maintain that image. So maybe they just threw out a number. Who knows? But as the numbers they said for that fight, they were in the 900,000s for both the Maidana fights. And the Guerrero fight was in the 700,000s. And the only one that did really good was the Canelo fight. We all know the weekend it was on, and the Canelo fan base and the promotion for that fight was very good. So we all know, yeah, pretty much if you put 2 and 2 together, Canelo got a lot of pay-per-view buys for that fight. But the promotion was very good. And so anyway, when you ask yourself, the whole point of this video, when you ask yourself, Floyd is demanding 2/3 of the money, and what do you call it? If you ask me, a 50-50 split doesn't seems reasonable to me. And but if you have to, since Floyd is a little bit better in the pay-per-view buys, give him a little more percentage. So I would say at most a 60-40 split is perfect. Because if you look at it, Manny Pacquiao in the U.S. still generates 800,000 pay-per-view buys for the Timothy Bradley fight, a little more than 800,000. And for Mayweather's fights in the U.S., besides Canelo, he's only been getting like around 900,000. So only a little bit more than Manny Pacquiao. So a 60-40 is a perfect split. And if you really, it should be 50-50 if you ask me, because the Guerrero fight did pretty bad. It did worse than Manny Pacquiao's pay-per-view buys. The only one that really makes Mayweather's pay-per-view buys way seem better is the Canelo fight. And really, what do you call it? It was just the promotion, and since Canelo's a Mexican and he's a good fighter, that really helped Mayweather. But like I said, Manny Pacquiao 800,000 buys in the U.S. Mayweather's last fights will averaging 900,000 for his last two. So give Mayweather, a little bit more of the money, but 60-40 split, that's what it should be. And if it's anything more, if Mayweather demands more than 60, then that's just crazy. And really, it should be 50-50, but 60-40 at most. Mayweather 60%, Pacquiao 40%. Because when you look at the pay-per-view numbers, really, there isn't that big of a gap, if you ask me. 100,000 buys in gap, that's not very much. And who knows if Showtime's over-exaggerating their numbers. So, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think the split should be? And, oh yeah, one more thing. I really don't understand how Mayweather gets that many buys still. But, because even if you do want to see him lose, why would you want to pay to see him fight and put money in his pocket? I watch it free. But for Pacquiao, he's an exciting fighter. You're getting a good fight, and he's the best in the world. You're getting a high-level, exciting fighter, and you know when you buy his fight, the money's going to be going to a good cause because he helps out the people in his country. So he helps out people. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on it, and thanks for watching.